How's it going, guys? Just got the rake hooked up. You saw the last video, we mowed right around 60 acres of our winter forage. And that was on Friday and Saturday. Now it's Monday, and we're gonna get started chopping. We had some very good drying weather yesterday and then again today. So I had no trouble getting it dry enough. We need to get the silo ready. So we had silage in the left 2 silos. The one on the far right was the spring forage from last year. And that's just about empty. We're down to the last 2 feet or so. So we're gonna be filling on top of that today. So that means we need to shut the robot feeder off while we're filling. So I have it mixed in a couple batches. It's just about finished. Right now it's running that triticale out of that far right silo. So this is our first spring now, harvesting with the robot feeder. The nice thing about the 3 silos is normally we're gonna be able to fill one while we're feeding out of the other 2. We have another 190 acres to cut, probably the end of this week or next. We're gonna be putting that all in the middle silo. That was corn silage, it's empty now. That'll probably get close to full from all that feed. So we're gonna put this first 60 acres in that same silo we filled last year. So we're gonna be feeding out of that next week. Then when we go to fill the other silo, we can let the robot keep running. Could be across a couple days. You never know if we get rain or something. If we tried to put everything in one silo, I don't think it would fit. So yeah, that unloader just ran. That was the last batch that I wanted to get mixed for now. So I'm fine with shutting that silo off. This is the silo here that we're gonna be raising up. Normally the Lely Vector will automatically check the feed heights and mix batches when they're needed. I ran a bunch of manual batches over the last few hours to get everything fed. We decided we're gonna, after this batch is done, run a little bit on the floor, push it to the side. So we'll just have a pile of triticale in here because there's another group or 2 that I think are gonna be hungry before we get this silo unloader set back up. So that way I can shovel some in as it's mixing. I can shovel it in and it's not gonna be that much. I was just mixing a small batch for pen 5. It's our special needs pen. Doing the post mix. So once it gets out of here, I'll run some on the floor. I can push it, put it somewhere here easy to get to. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the Vector sometime soon. It's been about 6 months, a little over 6 months since we put it in. We've been very happy with the system. It hasn't been perfect, but we definitely don't regret the decision. And I should mention again, if you're interested in a Lely Vector feeding system, you get a 5% discount. Use the code 10th Gen. Tell that to your salesman and your local Lely rep, and they can get you that discount. I get credited with that sale, so appreciate it if you do that. There's also a link below the video. You can access it that way as well. So this will be our 2nd year putting this winter forage into the upright silo like this, the big upright silo. So last year we got it in plenty dry, extremely dry on the bottom. We learned we don't need to get it quite that dry for it to not make juice. So yeah, this year I'm not quite as stressed out. I think we can put feed in these without too much trouble. So if you haven't seen my previous videos, we have 3 24-foot diameter by 132-foot tall upright silos. We went with 3 identical silos. We like it because it gives us some flexibility. We can fill a silo and a half of winter forage, make sure we feed out that half silo by the fall, and then we can put corn silage in 2 of them. And if we want to feed a 3rd forage for whatever reason, if we want to grow some forage sorghum this summer, if we're short on feed, we can put that in a 3rd silo and feed 3 things at once. We could have built 2 silos. We could have put one 30-footer and one 24-footer. That would have been enough feed. But then you really don't have any flexibility, and when you want to go fill a silo, you got to shut the feeder off. Today we're doing that, but we're not doing a lot. We're only doing 60 acres, so it's not going to take too long to get this chopping done. So yeah, this thing's about to leave, and then we'll get going here. The silos, they all have top unloaders on them, ring drive unloaders, so they're throwing the feed out this chute, falls down into the conveyors. I should switch the belt, the winch. We have a high and a low speed on these winches, so we can raise it up a little bit quicker. We have to lift the unloader the whole way to the top. It's a lot of distance to wind that cable up. It's gonna take a little while here. The thing is, when I put it in high, I almost can't use the guard. Or it's bent or something. Yeah, I gotta slide this a little bit. There we go. That'll just spin that winch a little bit faster. Even on high, it's a pretty slow winch. Yeah, this silo, if we look in here, we are down very close to the bottom. Could have gone another week or so maybe. We slowed down our feeding rate just a little bit last 2 weeks ago here. Probably would go 2 weeks yet if we had to, but it's nice. We're cutting 60 acres. We'll get feed in here, then we don't have to worry about running out of feed this spring. And we have a whole empty silo then to put the rest of the winter forage in. Now I'm going to manually run this silo a little bit. Conveyor number 3. There we got the camera. That's the door I just opened up to look inside the silo. So now there's a bright light there. This stuff is bone dry, but it was way at the bottom of the silo, packed extremely tight, and it smells really good. It's feeding really well, so we like it dry like that. Doesn't throw it out as fast as corn silage though. It's a little harder to dig out and to blow it out of the unloader fan. All right, that's gonna be enough. We will have the green feed coming in. We could use that for a couple batches too. I'd kind of like to get a moisture sample at least before we start using it, but if we would really be needing to mix some feed, we can do it that way. I'm gonna climb in here, get this unloader ready to go. I need to drop the gooseneck down, and then we gotta move that out of the middle and put our glancer piece in the center. I'm gonna go start up the unloader. I wanna run it a little bit, make sure I have everything set right. I have the main big motor off. The small ring motor still on, so it'll still rotate in a circle. Because we're gonna run it while we're filling. It's gonna be distributing the feed around the outsides of the silo. So let's go turn it on a little bit. Looks good. Appears to be set up correctly. I'm going to make sure my camera's facing the right way. That's the only last thing, and then we're gonna start going up. So I kind of forgot how to work the settings, but I got it going automatically now. Slowly winding it up. Goes a little bit quicker once it starts making the second layer. Ideally, we would have this area paved. Last year we just used that extra piece of plastic we had laying around. It did a decent job. We can clean that up a little bit easier than trying to scoop stuff off the dirt and stones. Just about to the third layer. I don't really need to be at the top. There's a single cable that wraps around here, and then it splits to a triple cable to hold that unloader in there. So once that triple cable makes it down to the winch, then I'm gonna have to stop it, and that's gonna be before the unloader hits the top. So I turn the camera a little bit so it's facing the middle where the feed's gonna be hitting. It's just good to watch it while it's filling, making sure everything's still working properly up there. The chopper just showed up. He's chopping. So we got a custom harvest crew in to help us do our harvesting. Got the winch to the top. Unloader right up there. Feed's gonna be coming through. Dropping right down there, top of the roof. Gonna glance at it's rotating real slowly now. I almost forgot I have to get the water hose set up. We just run water in at the blower. It helps keep the gum from building up inside the blower so it has full capacity. Stuff's definitely dry. It's probably around 50% moisture, not as dry as the first stuff we put in last year. This was actually a pretty thin field. The couple fields of rye we seeded pretty late in the fall and didn't get off to a good start. So it is rotating there, it's just going so slowly you can hardly tell. This was some of our least impressive winter forage. Not going to yield too great, but it's going to be something. We'll take feed wherever we can get it. I got the custom manure haulers lined up for tomorrow. Gonna spread on a bunch of these fields that we're chopping right now. So I like to start at this spot every time we empty the pit. We have a nice rectangle pit underneath our whole freestall, and then there's a narrow finger that comes off towards the back of the milking parlor, which is nice. Everything drains into that, but then it's kind of hard to get this stirred up. We end up getting a build-up dry manure in here, and we can't get the pump to work very well. What I found works is we take the backhoe and just dig out all the dry stuff we can right here, and then we'll run some extra water and it'll kind of puddle in this way. Usually there's enough liquid then they can get things stirring a little bit. So they got those first 20 acres, that lighter stuff, finished up, and now they moved down to the bottom end of the home place. Should be some heavier feed now. That wasn't near as bad as it sometimes is. I took a few scoops out, started hitting the liquid, and now it's all soupy in there already. You'll easily be able to get that stirred up tomorrow. Yeah, this crop's definitely heavier in this area, and it's gonna get even heavier as we move to the last chunk of acres. You can see there's a little bit more moisture in it. They've been chopping for a few hours now, and they're on the last field. It's the one right around the buildings. He's definitely moving slower in this field, so we're gonna be filling up some carts. Just a bunker plastic. Becoming less common in my life seeing these around. Oh, we're gonna hook up our blower. Just use it as a fan for working up there. This tractor, I don't know if it needs a new battery or what. Just charged it. You had one job, 4240. So this blower, it's got a bigger fan on it. It's made to run slower though. It's a 540 PTO. It has nowhere near the capacity of that beast out there. And there's no way this thing would even be able to throw it to the top of those silos to begin with. Works great for just moving air, fresh air up into the silo. Okay, they wrapped it up. I'm gonna stop the unloader. not quite full. We got it leveled off. Had someone here to help me that made a big difference, but it's a good amount of work. Winter forage is not like corn silage. Your fork just doesn't stab into it. When you try to scoop into a pile, it just stops it. Corn silage is, it's like digging into water. It's way easier. So the unloader's on the way down now. It's gonna take a little while. This ring here, this would be 44 feet. The 11th ring, we're down almost to 40 feet level here. Hey, that's a good amount of feed. It'll get us through the summer, and we'll try to fill another silo up next week. Try to make a bunch more of this stuff. The winch is pretty slow. There we can see the bottom side of this auger. Barely any wear on that thing from using it for a year. The knives are worn a little bit. You can change these knives after a while. It helps protect your auger. The auger itself is as good as new. Paint's not even wore off of it. These supposedly wear out pretty quickly because when you have a new silo, chipping off pieces of concrete and stuff, but they seem like they're okay yet. That'll be fun. I'm gonna go down and I have to change the moisture in the computer before we start a batch, so I think we can just run it. Should be good. So I just started up a batch for pen 4 in the dairy barn, so we're gonna see if this unloader works. Sometimes we're gonna have to mess with the settings, how much it should lower each round. Just gonna put a little bit of grass hay and then we'll run the triticale. Oh, it's throwing it out. Throwing it out pretty fast, actually. So there it is. First batch of feed with the new triticale in it. It hasn't fermented yet, so it's green. They're gonna like eating it, although I would prefer to let it sit in the silo for a little bit to ferment and get a little bit more stable. I don't know, it usually throws their gut off a little bit. Although it's a fairly small percentage of the ration, we have consistent corn silage. All the other ingredients are staying the same, so it shouldn't throw them off too bad, I don't think, at the rate we're feeding. I will see you guys in the morning. It's 4:30 the next morning. Got a couple big units pulling in. They've been running for 4 or 5 hours now. They're getting quite a bit done pretty quickly. 2 rigs running. It's so nice getting the custom manure haulers out, because back when we were doing our own hauling, I would just be getting started this morning. I was up late last night. I had to baby that robot a little bit for the first few batches because I had to play with the settings. I think next time it'll go a little better. I kind of have to learn to manage those unloaders. When they're first filled, the feed's kind of settling and it's not very even up there, so you have to change the settings a little bit. These guys showed up 4:30 this morning, and they have 2 big rigs running. They're gonna cover 55 acres pretty quickly. It works well for us because this way, get this manure out as quick as possible. It's gonna start drying, and then I can start planting probably tomorrow. We have some box manure that needs hauled. I'm gonna start working at that at some point today. Dad probably will too. I'm gonna go to market with 2 cows and a calf first thing. Spreading it fairly heavy. Corn likes nitrogen, and we have lots of manure. We drag line manure in the fall over everything, the 2 farms closest to the barn. But then in the spring, we'll just get them to spread on the specific fields that we're gonna be putting corn into. Don't usually put manure on the bean fields. We changed some things with the pasture out in the front of the property. Had this 1.5 or 2 acre pasture. Started up there in front of the parlor. Goes the way down to the road. We made it about 1/3 the size. We had a fencing company come in and just cut it off right here. So they're going through, my dad and a neighbor, pulling out all the posts. We're gonna farm this extra acre this year. So I wanna plant this soon, so we gotta get this ready for corn. I'm gonna tell them we're gonna add a few acres. There was a field I was gonna do soybeans in that we might as well put corn in it. So I'm gonna tell them to do that field too. But this started up really nicely. These pumps are absolute beasts. I cannot believe how fast they can fill a spreader with these things. Heading to market, just going past the neighbors, building that new steer barn. Starting to frame now. Gonna put a couple heifers on this pasture, keep it chewed down a little bit. They're not gonna be able to stay out here too long. Now I'm starting to work at hauling this dry manure. I just got started. Dad's gonna take over now. Have a lot more mowing to do, but not this week, or at least not till the end of the week. Need this tractor for the corn planter now. That manure is drying, so we can soon be out there planting. Just need to give it a little bit more time. This is all it is, just this one plug for the controller. The planter has seed sensors on it, so I'll know if the meters would stop and the seeds wouldn't be falling, or if the boxes are empty, it'll beep at me. But that's the only technology we use. Besides that, it's ground driven planter, and I use the marker arms for driving, marking the next row. I'm gonna just park this here for now. I gotta set up our shop area where we're going to be loading the seed, and then eventually we can bring this over, put seed in it. We got something for this tractor yesterday. Check it out. It's not the biggest cab, but it is handy to have a buddy seat. I fit my 6'7", 240-pound frame. We got 3 different varieties of seed in this pallet. Figure we can load seed straight out of the shop. We have water right over there in the parlor, so if I have a hose nearby, I can fill the fertilizer tanks and the seed all at one spot. Get this off of here. This is our in-furrow fertilizer product called Risen, and then we're going to use a little bit of Xyway. So we have the 2x2 fertilizer, which goes beside the row, and you can run this fungicide with it. We used it last year on everything. Decided to back off a little bit this year. Got some for some acres. Gonna run a little bit of a lower rate. See if I can compare a little bit, see if it's something we want to keep doing. If we don't put it on at planting, we always have the option of getting the big sprayer and the custom guy to spray later in the season if we see disease pressure. It's lower cost and simpler if we can just put it in the planter and then don't have to worry about it later if it works. So then I'm going to get this seed separated. We have 4 different hybrids we're going to be planting this year. Well, I guess 5 different ones. We have 3 bags. This is going to be for the neighbor, growing some corn for his beef cattle. They suggested we try this hybrid from Mid-Atlantic. It's supposedly a high yielding, makes a big ear with lots of grain. We never grew that before, but that'll be kind of interesting. I'm not being paid by any of these companies to talk about these products. Last year, if you were watching, we grew a bunch of red tail corn. We got 3 hybrids from Brevant. This is what they call unified, B14, U78. So this is a BMR corn, where it's in the BMR family, which is brown midrib, so it's high digestible fiber. But then it also has a floury kernel. It's a digestible kernel, so we really like this stuff in the fall. First thing right after harvest, you can feed it to cows. They do really well on it. They don't have any trouble digesting the starch. It really doesn't need to sit in the silo and ferment, long at all. We feed it green or within 2 weeks, and the cows don't skip a beat on it. We want to get that on the top of the first silo that we're going to fill, so that way we can start feeding that right away pretty much, and then we'll fill the second silo. 12 bags of that, so that's 2 loads of the planter. About 30 acres, or 34 acres. We'll plant a little lower population with that stuff, 28,000 population, something like that. Our nutritionist says that's his favorite corn if you can just feed that all the time. As far as when you test it, it has very good digestibility. The starch level is usually a little lower, but you can always add corn, feed more corn if you want more starch. But you can hardly replace that fiber digestibility. For one thing, with the big silos, if we would grow all BMR corn, from what we've heard, it can be a real struggle with them juicing. It just has, when you pack it in that silo, it tends to not be able to withstand that pressure as much, I guess. You'd have to make sure you got it really dry. We're okay with putting some on the top of one. The downside with any BMR corn is it just doesn't yield as well as non-BMR hybrids. It doesn't have the starch content. It's not quite as disease resistant. The other thing we're finding is if we're feeding winter forage, we get a lot of digestible fiber from that. We feed that along with non-BMR corn. We're getting enough digestible fiber in the diet, and we don't need the corn silage to necessarily be extremely digestible. For the cow's rumen to work properly, you need to have some non-digestible fiber. You can't just be 100% digestible, or else they're going to have very loose manure. There's a lot of very good dairies that make a lot of milk that don't feed BMRs, and I guess the market's kind of getting away from that. So there's certain corns, that's why we like the red tail. They're known for their floury kernels, which I guess are sort of similar to the unified. I theorize that we could get away with feeding this red tail right away in the fall and it wouldn't be too bad. My dad talks about back in the day, they used to have a lot of trouble in the fall with the milk production dropping on the green silage. So this is red tail, it's 114 day. I'm looking for the number, 64T39. So we grew a good bit of this last year. We grew 3 different hybrids from red tail, and this one stood out as a very good corn. It yielded really well even on a dry year. It's feeding very well. The cows are, right now we're feeding it, the cows are milking well on it. We were wanting to grow more of that this year. 2 different hybrids from Brevant that are not BMR. B12 FO8Q. This is a popular one, high yielding, makes good feed. Not as digestible as a BMR, but you're gonna get more yield, more grain. We did grow this some 2 years ago. That's gonna be good. I think we have 18 bags of that. We have the most of that kind. And then we have this BO2V87. We've never grown this. It's 102 day corn. This is just a shorter maturing, quicker maturing, so it'll dry out quicker in the fall. That way we have some drier feed for the bottom of the silos. So that's 102 day corn, that's 112 day corn. We got 114 day corn, and then the unified is 114 day. In our area with our climate, we have a fairly long growing season, so we can grow winter forage, get the corn in a little bit later, still grow 114 day corn, chop it, and have plenty of time to get the winter forage seeded again in the fall. Probably bored some people going over that, but that's what we're doing this year. Growing about 150 acres for our 2 silos. Should be able to fill 2 silos, and if it yields like it can, we should have too much corn. Then an extra 10 acres for the neighbor. The other downside with the BMR is if you can't fit it in your silo, doesn't work out to keep it and shell it, so you have to chop it for silage, whereas these we could let go and combine them just for grain then if we had a really good yield. So you got a little bit more flexibility. The BMR silage, the ears are smaller, so it's not going to yield well for grain, and the standability is not as good because the stalks are weaker, which is what makes them more digestible, but not good for standing in the field into the fall and drying out. Hey guys, so it's the next morning. I am milking, although we had a little issue. The milk truck's late today. I've never showed the milk truck before because they always get here about 1 or 2 in the morning. I just thought, well, I might as well show him since he's here. We're quite a bit delayed. We got to milk one group and then the tank got full, so we're just waiting, but he came flying in now. Shouldn't be too long. Our tank's 4,000 gallons and that's enough milk for 2 days, but then it's very full, so we can't milk any extra. Just hooks up to the front valve. Should take about 20 minutes or so to pump it out. And then we always run a tank wash between pickups. Picks up every other day. We got the milking finished up. We started group 2 at 7 a.m., which we're normally wrapping up at 7, so it's a little bit late, but we're done. So we're gonna get seed in this planter now. So we'll put the unified in, this stuff. Put seed in it, and I need to get the population set. Get these different gears you can use to change the speed. It's all ground driven. It always plants a little bit heavy, so I'm gonna keep the settings back pretty good. I usually, for 30,000, I actually usually set it for 27.8. But I'm actually going for more 28 to 29,000 with the unified. So I'm gonna put in 23, that's a 23. This is a bigger one, so let's get us a second 23. It's 23. One thing about this unified corn, it has a lot of flex to it, which means if there's enough moisture and nutrients there, the stalk and the ear will be quite a bit bigger. So we'll keep the population down. If we don't get the rain we need, it'll do a little bit better because it won't be competing with itself. And then if we get enough rain, it'll still flex and have bigger ears and bigger stalks to make up for the lack of population. So putting the seed coat on, that's a little bit of fertilizer right on the seed. And then we're gonna run a little bit of graphite just to help with lubrication so the seeds flow through. The guys we buy seed from, they actually like running a little bit lower population. As long as the hybrid has flex to it, it just helps give you a bigger stalk. And usually if your seed salesman is telling you to plant a lower population, that's a sign they're being honest. Got everything loaded. The pumps should be set correctly. I'm running the same rate as we did last year. Shooting for about 14 gallons, 2x2 from the outside 2 tanks, and then the middle tank is 6 or 7 gallons per acre. We mowed this field Friday last week. Today is Wednesday. So within a week, get the crop harvested. We're going right back in and planting the next crop. Not disturbing the soil. I had seed flowing through all 6 units. As the meters are working, we got seed falling. Gotta make sure we actually put seed in the ground now. So I like to just check the gauge wheels. Are they down against the ground? Last year we had so much trouble getting the planter to push down through the soil because it was so hard. The soil is nice and soft. It just makes a huge difference. There we got a seed. We're about 2¼ inches under, which is about perfect. 2.5 inches is what we shoot for. And there should be a seed about every 7 inches. I've gone around this first field one time. It is planting way better than it did last year. Soil is just softer. I should probably stop and check again, make sure everything looks good back there. So we've been no-till planting for quite a while. So when I first started my channel a handful of years ago, after we took off spring forage, we were doing some tillage to try and loosen the soil up a little bit. But yeah, we've kind of learned it doesn't necessarily help us that much to poke around and try to loosen the soil up. If we have the planter working properly, we can get it planted the way we want it without having to spend extra time and money doing any tillage. But yeah, it's amazing the difference the conditions can be depending on what the weather was before we go to plant. We just have softer dirt this spring. Seed depth looks really good. So that arm is making a mark for the middle of the next pass. So then I'm just sitting in the cab following that line. We have a 6-row planter, and the guy who does our chopping has an 8-row head on the chopper, but he can always take 8 rows. I have to make sure I'm planting accurately so he can actually get 8. He tells me I do a good enough job keeping the rows straight for his sake. So I always do at least 3 passes around the whole field because my sprayer is a 60-foot sprayer, so I need to straddling the 12th and 13th row off the edge of the field to spray the edges. So I'll get the end rows and the outside done, and then I'll just start from one side of the field, work my way across. Running exactly 5 miles per hour. So I got the first 8-acre section done. Fertilizer is about half gone. 16 acres per fill up for the planter, so looks like everything's working. So I got done with those first 22 acres, and now we're moved down to just the lower end of the home farm. We had this field of rye. It was right up against this Thor triticale. So this stuff is still maturing, still has some room to grow. Just wanted to make sure it's still planting like it needs to be. Now we're going to switch over to red tail. Dad's going to start loading that. I need to change the population a little bit. I'm working on the end rows of this field, which are now in the pasture that we shrunk. So I got the planter filled for the 4th time. We have over 50 acres planted now. And I'm about to wrap this field up. One of the downsides to planting into the triticale stubble, you can't really see where you planted. If you don't know where you're at in the field, it is very hard to find your spot again. The corn's a little bit better because we spread manure, a little bit more of a contrast, especially when we get to soybeans. We don't hit it with manure. Those soybean fields look basically exactly the same after you plant them. Just finished up planting the corn that we wanted to for this week. I got about 65 acres in the ground, so that's almost enough to fill 1 silo. It's really good to get a bunch started, so that way it'll dry down a little bit earlier in the fall. So then we can get to filling that silo before too late. So now we're gonna switch the planter over to beans. I'm not gonna plant beans right now, but we'll just get ready. That's gonna be the next thing we'll plant after we harvest more spring forage. Not sure what I'll be doing next with the tractor. Hopefully spraying if the weather works out. Could be mowing, so I'm not gonna hook it to anything. We're gonna go check out some of these triticale fields that are the most mature. At some point we're gonna have to mow, and we're gonna be forced to. The weather is not looking great for the next week or so as far as drying more crop, so we'll see what happens. You can actually feel the heads. Yeah, still 6. Some of them are closer to 4, but 6 inches. Go, girl. Go ahead.